We are getting spoiled by My Adventures with Superman. Episode 3 is out, and not only do we see our beloved characters growing to their full potential, but this unique universe is getting bigger with the introduction of even more iconic DC characters. So let's review episode 3 and then get into some predictions that we have for episode 4. This episode revolves all around the core characters, each getting a step closer to their full potential, to truly becoming the characters that we all know and love, and it's so well done. Lois Lane, for starters, is getting the hang of being an ace reporter for the Daily Planet, and her rivalry with Vicki Vale in this episode demonstrates how great she's becoming. And this doesn't go unnoticed by Vicki Vale, who then offers Lois a job at the Gotham Gazette. Good for Lois, of course, I'm very proud of her, but considering how icky the show is portraying Vicki, see what I did there? I think this is just her way to keeping Lois in her shadow and taking out the competition between the two newspaper companies. So most likely Lois is gonna see right through Vicki and decline her offer. But I just had a really fun prediction pop into my head, and most likely won't happen, but what if Lois does take the job, moves to Gotham, and while she's in Gotham, she has an encounter with Batman? Once again, it's unlikely, but it still would be awesome. But in case you're new here, welcome to the Crop Top Critic. I'm Alex, and I love everything movies, TV, and geeky related. And I want you to love that stuff too. So if you're enjoying this video and you want to see more like it, Superman punch the like button, and then subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything. Another character reaching their potential is Jimmy Olsen, and I'm relieved that they're giving him a purpose in this story besides just being the silly third-wheel best friend of Lois and Superman. As the head of the Flamebird division at the Daily Planet, Jimmy is learning how to become a leader, and I love the message the show gives us that a leader builds people up. It helps them become leaders themselves, which is a core attribute to a Superman story. Regular people aspiring to be great and help others like Superman. Jimmy is starting to understand it, and from that, I think he's gonna have an even greater impact on this story than I originally thought he would. I'm really excited to see more of Jimmy Olsen's story. Superman gets a brand new power, and it's a power that I didn't even know he had. When Superman is rescuing a scientist from a burning building, more on that guy in a bit, he creates a force field of sorts around the both of them, which protects him from the fire. Now, I thought this was a new way for them to portray his invulnerability to attacks. You know what I'm talking about when he's getting punched and he just strikes that pose, But I read around the internet and some people are calling this his bioelectric field, which protects him and whatever he's holding. But if you have any more info on this power from the comics, please let me know in the comments below, because this is a first for me. But it's still exciting to see Superman gaining more and more superpowers, and I'm curious to see what he could do next. Maybe he'll get that one power where he can throw his S at people. That would be funny. It wasn't just the good guys though that were reaching their full potential, because Lex Luthor was making some big moves in episode 3. So at the end, it's revealed that Lex Luthor bought out Hammer Tech, most likely with the help of Amanda Waller, and renamed it LexCorp. It's starting, y'all. Lex Luthor is slowly but surely becoming a supervillain. Bust out those clippers, that bald head's coming soon. My favorite thing about this episode though is 3 iconic DC characters making their debut. Immediately in this episode, we're introduced to Silas Stone, a scientist who is also the father of Victor Stone, a little boy who will eventually grow up to becoming the superhero Cyborg. Stone doesn't play the hugest role in episode 3, but I do love the continued trend of teasing famous DC heroes. We will eventually get a major Justice Leaguer that appears, but I was quite happy with who we got next. I'm of course talking about Dr. Jonathan Irons, or as we will soon know him by, Steel. It was awesome seeing him in action, and he's the first superhero that we see appear in this series other than Superman. So while we might not get any major Justice Leaguers appearing anytime soon, we still have a chance to see other DC heroes pop up, and I could not be more excited. But who's the next hero that you would like to see appear in My Adventures with Superman? And finally, we have Metallo. Last week, I correctly predicted that Metallo would be introduced in this episode, but it came out vastly different than what I expected, and honestly, I'm disappointed. Instead of being a human cyborg, Metallo is the name of a bunch of mindless robots that are designed to beat up Superman. Metallo is one of the few Superman villains that can legitimately hurt him, like, he's freaking epic. So to see that character get reduced down to an army of robot jobbers is like incredibly lame. But they were teased at the end of the episode to be worked on by Lex Luthor and Amanda Waller, so there's still a chance they can get those kryptonite hearts, or maybe a person will merge with one of the robots and we'll get a true Metallo. So until I see what happens, I'll hold back full judgment. But as of right now, I'm not liking what we got out of Metallo. But before I give you my final thoughts on episode 3 of My Adventures with Superman, let's talk about some predictions I have for episode 4. So the next episode is titled Two Lanes Diverge, and the summary goes as follows. Jimmy gets invited to the Star Lab Symposium, and Clark joins him for support, but Lex Luthor takes over. Meanwhile, the General flees, and Lois chases after him, struggling to reconcile past experiences with the present situation. So here's what I think is about to happen. Lex Luthor will continue to rise in power, unfortunately at the expense of Jimmy Olsen. Sad. And with this symposium, Lex will really garner public support to make LexCorp the top technological company in Metropolis. He'll be able to afford the bald head. As for Lois and her father, I'm really hoping that she gives him a piece of her mind. Like, the General has been mad disrespectful to Lois, and I think in episode 4, Lois is not only going to prove that she is capable of handling herself in dangerous situations, but also she's going to let him know that she does not deserve the treatment that he's been giving her, and if he doesn't get his act together, she's going to disown him, which is something she honestly should have done earlier. Tears will be falling in this episode, and I predict that most of them will be from me. But what do you think will happen in episode 4? Overall, I feel like episode 3 of My Adventures with Superman has spoiled us with all these character debuts and just straight up goodness. I am concerned about how they're doing Metallo, but I love the inclusion of Steel and Silas Stone. Like, this universe is getting bigger and bigger, and I can't get enough of it. So with that being said, episode 3 of My Adventures with Superman is getting 4 out of 5 crop tops. It's great. But what did you think of episode 3? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this review and you want to see more, click on the boxes right here, and I'll see you in a bit.